Good morning, sunshines. Welcome back to Unlocking the Paradigm Portal. My name is Sarah. So today we're doing a Sunday deep dive, and I'm going to tell you about the murder board. Now, I know that sounds probably like a true crime opener, and it kind of is, except the crime was me not seeing myself clearly, and the detective was also me, and said detective was drinking a lot of whiskey at the time. So, welcome in. The Sunday deep dives are the longer episodes. They're unscripted, they are personal and vulnerable. And last time I interviewed my kiddo, I'm going to do more with her in the future. I'm very excited about that. And this time we'll actually have a plan so we don't ping pong everywhere. But today I decided to talk about relationships, because this has been the hot button topic this week, and I've been putting together something super cool based on some really awesome and scary and hard things that I've done the last couple of months. So we're going personal. So I'm going to sit here and sip on my coffee and just sink into this, no matter how uncomfortable it can be to share things. And I want to make it clear. So professionally, I'm a licensed massage therapist. I'm a somatic practitioner. I'm also an attachment theory coach. I work with people on their attachment styles and how it's basically screwing up their lives and why. Understand it, reprogram it. It's very cool. But today I am not here as any of those. I am just here as me. I am here as the person who in the past desperately needed the kind of coaching that I do now. I had coaching from an amazing person, and it was what I needed at the time. And looking back, I can see how the work now, it would have changed things back then, but I didn't know it. So I'm going to talk about my own patterns and my own relationship history and the process I went through to finally see myself clearly. So I'm going to start with a few months ago, and excuse me as I stop periodically to drink my coffee. Fun fact, I have a mug that I was given for my birthday that I've wanted forever, and I'm very excited to have it. And on it is a branch with 2 crows, and it says attempted murder. I think it's hysterical. Some people look at me blankly and they don't understand why it's funny. If you don't, Google it, and it's perfect for today. So a few months ago, I hit a wall, like slammed face first into it like a crash test dummy. And it's not like it was a rock bottom. It wasn't technically a crisis. It was elderly parents, teenage kids, everyone having a hard time, literally in the span of like 5 days. And it just overwhelmed me. I felt very alone. I felt like I didn't have a support network. I didn't have people who gave a shit besides my best friend. Whether that is real or not doesn't matter. In that moment, I felt that way. So it was a lot of time, of almost like a month of me just very quietly being reflective and nurturing the hell out of myself and staying very much in like a hermit mode, and evaluating like who was showing up for me and who really wasn't. And with that, I started seeing patterns existing, because it got quiet. And I always talk about this. The quieter it gets, the more you can hear things and see things clearly, which is why most people want background noise to avoid it. But I'm one of those people that's like, everything I want it silent so I can see it so clearly. So in that time, I also realized I could see all these patterns coming up in my family situation, in my kids' situation. And I started piecing things together. And then I was like, I want to take a deep dive look at my relationship patterns. We all have them, and most people don't stop and take a peek at them. And I've had some really amazing people in my life, and I've had some really super shitty ones. And all of a sudden I was like, not that I haven't thought about it before, but I just allowed myself the time. And I I had this quiet realization that I just kept arriving at the same destination with different people. But I couldn't quite see like the linchpin point. And I was just so done. So I really did what any completely reasonable, rational person would do. I got my coffee whiskey out, which I wish I could remember the brand. It was so good. And I sat down with my best friend and I mapped out every significant relationship that I have ever been in, like I was solving a crime. And I'm talking going back 30 plus years to when I was like 14. It was bonkers crazy. And it was really fun, actually. And so before you picture me like spiraling into some obsessive like X cataloging situation, and let me be super clear about what this was and what it wasn't. Okay. It's not about them. I wasn't replaying who did what. I wasn't feeding resentments or building a case against anyone. I was looking for myself in the data. And so think of it like I was running this science experiment. I was not in the feels. I wasn't going into a rant. I wasn't anything. I was listing the facts. And I do this with my coaching a lot. Just the facts, ma'am. Like, we're not going in feels. We're not going into the past. We're just like, let's go through the facts of what happened and identify patterns that were coming up or behaviors in others or in myself that were appearing that I either ignored or leaned into, and especially focusing on me. Why did I choose to go toward patterns? Why did I choose to reenact patterns? Why did I choose patterns, period? It was completely self-exploration. And you know how they say history repeats itself? So it's like I was looking to see why my history continued to repeat by reading a history textbook, if that makes sense. So it genuinely was not about any other person. And what I found is that every relationship I'd ever been in, that I have ever been in, had one consistent variable. If we're looking at this like an equation, one variable across the board, and that was me. And I had never honestly taken a look at what I was bringing to the table. Like the good, the wounded, the patterns I kept repeating, like I was following outdated computer code. And I say that realizing I don't even know what computer code does or is. Fortunately, my friend's husband is the computer geek that can help with all of that stuff. So I don't know why I just used that phrasing, but I did. I was following a script basically, and that I didn't even know that I had outdated programming that was based on past stuff, whether reality or perceived reality or false or real. I don't even know, but outdated programming. And my attachment pattern had been running the show without my permission. And I finally decided to look at it. And for those who don't know your attachment styles, there's the old school attachment theory that calls them anxious, avoidant, and disorganized. I go with integrated attachment theory with Thais Gibson at the Personal Development School. She's amazing. I so recommend her and her work and her videos, and unbelievable wealth of knowledge. And I did her certification program. And so with her, there's anxious, preoccupied, the people that tend to cling and are very anxiety driven. There's dismissive, avoidant, the people that tend to stonewall, shut down, close people out and not get attached very much. And then there's those like me, fearful avoidance, who fluctuate between the two. Now, some people lean one way, some people lean the other way, like whether it's more anxious or more avoidant. I happen to previously run smack dab in the dead center. So if somebody ran more anxious, I would go full on avoidant and be like, whoa, too close. If somebody was more avoidant, which has been my personality of choice in the past, if they're more avoidant, I would become more anxious and hold on tighter. And it was this constant push-pull. It's a very challenging attachment style, but I will say it is not impossible to work with if you are willing to do it. I fortunately tackle everything like a sledgehammer. So I've worked my ass off for like the last couple of years on this. And I don't know that you ever fully heal. I don't know if I believe that you fully heal from attachment wounding. However, I do believe everyone is a work in progress, and it's up to you how quickly or slowly you move through it. And I've processed through a ton of wounding, and I see that. I feel it every day. I see it in my relationship with my kids. I hear it from people that have known me for a long time who have watched it happen. It feels pretty damn amazing. But anyways, my fearful avoidant tendencies had been operating the whole system, like hijacked it and was running it like what are those things? Like a computer worm, bug, virus, whatever. So what was I actually looking for, you ask? I was looking for 3 things. Wow, my throat keeps wanting to close up. I was looking at the patterns that I was drawn to in partners. And again, I'm talking going back 30 plus years just to see the ebbs and the flows and how things shifted over time. I was looking for the patterns that I could see in myself across those relationships in the partners. So like, what did they mirror to me and where those 2 things overlapped, like the correlation points, that's where the wound lives. So patterns in them, patterns in myself, and then how did that overlap? And the things in the partner that I found challenging, whether challenging for me to open up, challenging for vulnerability, challenging in whatever way, how was I also showing up with that? And let me tell you, it was freaking mind-blowing. Then I looked at the red flags that I saw and that I ignored. And not because I was blind. I saw them. I minimized them because the need that was underneath all of it was so much louder than the warning that was on top. And there'd be giant red flags literally waving, smacking me in the face. And I would duck down and be like, but there's good stuff back there. That, my friend, is wounding. When we intentionally, when we unintentionally and then intentionally put on blinders to ignore red flags, that's your wounding talking. That's not healthy, healed adult. And then the one thing that hit even harder than the red flags, the green flags that I dismissed. Yep, that happened. The consistent people, or the safe ones, because I know somewhere along the way, I, in my subconscious, decided that safety felt boring. That's part of that fearful avoidant thing. And like, if my nervous system wasn't in a state of activation, then it must not be real, or it must not be a connection, or whatever, which is total bullshit. And that is your wounding again, calling out. And that was just all the wounds talking to me. It wasn't actually me. And I want to backtrack for a second because I did reference the safe ones. And I want to say this to the people out there. And I'm directing it at men right now because I've had this conversation with a few men in the last few months. If someone tells you that you are a safe person, if a woman tells you that you are a safe man, I have talked to a few amazing men who have been told this by partners, by friends, by all of that, by me in some cases. And I saw the visible cringe on them and in them. And I want to explain, as I did with them, and I want to explain it to anybody who has heard that. Your perception, most likely your wounding, views someone saying you are safe as a negative thing, as boring, as settling, as all of that. And, there might be the person out there that means that. But maybe that person is so wounded that they don't realize what they're actually saying, that they feel safe because their nervous system can go offline. So in my opinion, and this is just my opinion, if someone feels safe, that is the highest compliment and highest honor that I can give to anyone, especially a man. So if you've heard that, I want you to know you're doing a good job. And on behalf of people everywhere and women everywhere, thank you. I just had to address that because it has come up in conversations quite a bit. Being told you're safe. I've told that to one human being in my life. And not that I haven't felt safety with other people, but one where it was so profoundly obvious and startling that I had to actually say it. And that's literally the highest honor that I could give to someone. So I hope all you guys out there that you hear this. Okay, getting back to this. So the murder board. So I'm looking for patterns in the other person that I'm drawn to, patterns in me that were playing out, where they overlapped, because that is the linchpin for the wounding. I'm looking for the red flags that I saw and chose to turn blinders onto, which we all do, pretending that the toxic things don't exist, the chaotic things, the conflict, the hostility, the solitude, the loneliness, the emptiness, the lack of connection, the lack of sex, or the lack of satisfying sex. All of these things that we turn blinders on and pretend like it's okay. Those are the red flags we ignore. The green flags that, oh man, those are the ones I don't live with regret, but I do look back at the green flags that I shoved away. And that's the part that I just feel like, oh, young Sarah, you could have had a totally different direction. However, my direction led me to where I am now. And man, I freaking love who I am and where I am now. Okay, getting back on track. I'm a little ping-pongy today, so I apologize for that. So after that murder board, we laid it all out. We looked at all the patterns. We noticed the overlapping things. Basically, I would reiterate the story. My friend who knows everything about me, she would throw out the name of someone that I've dated over the past 30 some odd years, and I would regale her with the story. She already knew it, but it was more for me to hear it and hear it from an observational standpoint, like a scientific research study. And then as we were doing this, we had sheets of copy paper laid out, and I would just start writing down significant things about that relationship. And again, not about the person. The person was just the subject under the microscope. And then as we started accumulating papers, then we would kind of stand up and look at them. And when I'm looking at them, I'm like holding my chin and I rub my bottom lip. I don't know why, it's like a thoughtful thing. And we'd be like, hold up, this pattern, it's here and here and here. Okay, and this other pattern, it's here and here and here. And be able to see them in real time and be like, holy shit. And also I noticed it aligned with different age ranges in my life. Some wounding was stronger in one place. Some wounding was stronger in another place. It was mind-boggling to do, to really have it laid out in front of me like a murder board. And I realized, I don't know if I ever explained that. When I say a murder board, if you don't know that reference, think of like the image on the screen, old school movies with the big old board and the pictures on and the strings drawing it together to make the connections. That's why I call it the murder board. Nobody was actually harmed in the making of my murder board. Let me just make that very clear. So that was that whole process of mapping it all out. It was profound. I did the bulk of it with her, and then I did a bunch of it independently on my own. The ones like the really, thankfully, there's only a couple, but the very, very toxic, traumatic, abusive relationships, those ones I needed to do by myself. And I'm not going to lie, it was very difficult to relive that. It always is, no matter how much therapy you do. And I had to like get up and double over and take a lot of deep breaths. And I used my mantra, which is, I am scared and I am safe. I am scared and I am safe. And did my breathing. But I got through it. And it was amazing with those, especially to see what had me so drawn to extraordinarily toxic individuals. It was really fascinating. So that led to what I'm going to call my autopsy weekend, since we're going full on crime scene kind of stuff. I moved into a new house. I painted it from top to bottom. I mean, the ceilings, everything. So it's my cozy, happy space, and I freaking love it. And as soon as I got in here, it was like I had a secondary emotional crash because I was in my safe place, in my happy spot. And all of a sudden I realized why I had done my murder board. And it was to head into my autopsy weekend where I had to go through, I didn't have to. Well, you know what? I didn't have a choice. I felt compelled. If you've ever seen Harry Potter, I can't remember which movie it is. And I know it's sacrilegious that I've only seen the movies and not read the books. And I have the books, but I like the movies and I don't want to dislike them. It's a whole thing. The movie where Ron breaks his wand and he goes to spell Malfoy. And the spell ends up coming back to him and he ends up puking up slugs. If anyone remembers which movies this was, I can't remember which one. My daughter loves them. We just watched them all. I can't remember. That part where he just keeps turning green and compulsively puking up a slug. I spent 3 days basically feeling like that. Didn't actually vomit. Did dry heave a little bit at one point, but it was like starting from age 14, where I had my first quote unquote real boyfriend, and who was just an absolute, looking back, I'm like, oh, such a sweetheart. Started on a very high note, like just a sweet, sweet boy. And it felt like a slug coming up and out this story. And and I'm a writer, like my degree is in writing. And I would sit down and I just started writing it and writing it and writing it. And I was converting this story of each person into basically a fairy tale. And I was pulling in archetype patterns and telling it in a really mythical way that it became so beautiful. And as I did this, I would start identifying the patterns in me, the patterns that were playing out, the lessons that I was learning, the gifts that I was learning, any symbolism that I had, or images or synchronicities, or any of those, I don't know, I guess you could call them woo-woo things, but any of those things that I felt very tied to that moment in time. I'm not going to say to the relationship, to the moment in time, because it was a snapshot in my life. And then it got packed away, and then another snapshot came up. And it was so cathartic. And I got to say, there were a couple of people from forever ago that I realized as I was doing this, I kind of like villainized them, and taking a step out of the emotions and just going into the observations. They were not the villains. I have a couple people that were actual villains, like evil, maniacal, Machiavellian kind of villains. One in particular, but the other one's pretty damn close. But most of them were just sweet, nice, lovely human beings. And I could see, as I sat and relived the stories, I could see my wounding coming out to play in each of them. And again, as I was doing this, the rule that I gave myself was, it's not about them. Ultimately, the names, the demographics, all of that stuff, it had nothing to do with that. I actually left that off entirely. And it was me. How did I feel? How did I interact? What did I suppress in myself? What did I express in myself and feel comfortable with that? And literally every story got filtered through one question, which was, what does this show me about myself? What did I allow? What did I bend? What did I give? What did I withhold? We don't like to acknowledge that, but we withhold things. And this reminds me, I had a conversation with someone the other day, and I said, I've been thinking about this. We talk about the feeling of walking on eggshells. And if you haven't experienced that, I'm happy. I'm very happy for you. If you have, it's toxic. It's literally toxic behavior. It's emotional abuse. It is unhealthy, and it is a sign that there are massive, massive underlying problems, but we often deal with it or brush it off for a multitude of reasons. And so this friend that I was talking to, I said something that I've been pondering, and I've been creating something this week that I will share a little bit about at the end. And this was part of it, was to think about, were you the one that was walking on eggshells, or were you the one who laid the eggshells? Whether for yourself, whether for the other person, not always maliciously, but it's something to think about, because I think we all have done it both ways at times. But anyways, so this whole experience showed me so, so very much. And I wasn't telling their stories. I was finally telling mine. And I want to be honest, it wasn't pain-free, because there's a lot of grief in seeing yourself clearly. And there can be some shame that bubbles up and embarrassment and some rage, but just a lot of oozing, seeping grief. And it's grief for the time spent playing it small and being unhappy and choosing a life that didn't feel right, but I chose it anyways because I didn't know any better. And the times that I chose a life that didn't make me happy, and I did know better, but I chose it because I was too afraid to try something different. And there was grief for those younger versions of me that didn't know what they didn't know. And that grief is super real, and it deserves to be named. So then everything kind of shifted. And there was a moment that I stopped asking, why do they keep doing this to me? Which that was like a super outdated question. I remember that coming into my head at one point, and I was like, that's freaking weird. I haven't said that in a while. It was like, it just kind of regurgitated up. And I was like, nope, that is so outdated. And I started asking myself, why do I keep showing up in places where this is possible? Why do I keep choosing things that don't feel right, or ignoring my intuition when I recognize that it's not right? And suddenly everything just really changed. I mean, it had been on the brink and I'd recognized it, but this gave me total clarity and transparency. And I have to watch the time because my recording thing only lets me record for a certain amount of time, and then I have to do a second one. And it was never them. And it's not about letting anybody off the hook for real harm. Like, that's just being honest that I was the one making the choices. I was the one staying. I was the one going back. I was the one deciding this was what I was available for. And then the time came to choose differently. So my attachment pattern wasn't a character flaw, okay? It's not. And just as a heads up, it's not permanent. It can be completely morphed and changed if you put the work in. It's a survival strategy, and it was built very early by either actual experiences or perceived experiences, and for reasons that made sense at the time, and they kept running long after, and it kept running long after it stopped serving me, like the old programming. But healing doesn't mean erasing it. It just means seeing it. And I think that's what a lot of people get stuck on. When you heal, when you let things go, they don't magically disappear. They just stop driving you, and they stop being something you cling to like a toxic lifeline. And once you can see it, it releases its hold on you. It's really pretty incredible. So you have to recognize when your wounding is driving you versus when you are, and make a different choice, even if the old one feels more familiar. And it takes patience, and it takes practice, and it takes, occasionally fucking up and having to kind of figure out your way back, which, I've done this stuff for a long time, and I still get kicked in the teeth at times and have to find my way back. And that's okay. I mean, I'm literally still in this work all the time. This isn't I have it all figured out story. It's I finally started looking at it story. And the last thing that I learned is that you can choose the lesson without attaching to the person or the outcome. And that's pretty damn cool and powerful, because the lesson, it's portable. You can take it with you, but the person is not. And staying in situations that are toxic, unhealthy, unhappy, whatever they may be, that's your choice. And as long as you're learning the lessons, you make your choice, you live how you want to live, take the lesson, and move forward, whatever it is that moving forward is for you. Because once you see your patterns clearly, you can't go fully back to sleep. You can't. You can try, but it will become very, very uncomfortable. And that's not a curse. It's actually a gift. So what does the murder board actually mean, right? Well, I don't want you to hear this as cynicism or walls or like a permanent never again. It means looking at yourself with clear eyes. And it means knowing the difference between chemistry and chaos. And let me tell you, as a reforming, fearful avoidant, we associate chaos as chemistry. Therefore, it must be connection, right? Think of it like a math equation. Chaos plus chemistry equals connection, or chaos equals chemistry equals connection. And it's not. It's really not. And frankly, and actually, this is talked about a lot in attachment theory. If you have that instant spark of attraction and connection with someone, consider that a red flag, because there's a reason for it. There's something that they are mirroring back to you, which is why there's that chemistry. If someone feels soft and soothing, that is a green flag. And take your time. For the love of God, take your time. Vet people. I'm actually creating a program based around vetting. And okay, so chemistry and chaos and connection, not the same things. And now I feel I can tell the difference between like depth and drama. Drama is like the person splashing around on the surface, creating all sorts of a ruckus. And guess what? Sharks are going to come and bite you in the butt. The depths, that is flowing and smooth and complex and beautiful. And I can tell the difference now. It took some time, but now it's so obvious. And now I know what a green flag feels like in my body, not in my mind, not logicking my way through it, but in my body. And I certainly know what a red flag feels like. I describe it as it feels like sharp edges. I instantly have this like shallow breath, and it's like, ooh, that's a no, for sure. There is no wishy-washy about the two anymore. Although now as I say that, I swear to God, the universe is going to throw a test at me to see if I can tell. I feel confident I got it. And the biggest thing is that I'm learning to trust myself and my judgment and actually listen to it instead of talking myself out of it. And through this whole process, I've broken down, what do I actually need? Not just what I want, but what I actually need, what I expect, what I require. And for the first time in an extraordinarily long time, I trust myself to honor those things instead of kind of quietly setting them aside because I'm too afraid of asking for too much. No, that was tied to the remnants of an unworthy core wound and feeling like I didn't deserve everything that I was asking for. Nope, that's long over. So there are things that I used to negotiate away that I don't negotiate anymore. There are boundaries that I have established that those are unwavering, and it's not, and I think some people, I know a lot of people view boundaries as you're throwing up walls. No, I am saying this is what I'm comfortable with. Honor my boundaries, be a loving, emotionally safe person. And yes, come on into the inner sanctum. If not, yeah, you can stay on the outside. And there's no waffling about that. I don't care how much someone tells me they don't like it or it makes them feel bad. Tough shit. They're your feelings. Take responsibility for them. I feel actually that I've become less rigid because I finally understand that my boundaries and my needs are never optional. I just told myself that they were, and I made them optional. I made my choices and my needs and my wants, everything optional, and they're not. And I'm still healing. My attachment pattern is continuously in that process, and it probably always will be, but being aware is everything, and awareness changes the game. So here's what I didn't expect, that I didn't just heal something, I built something. Because as I went through all of this, and this has been the process of the last few months, as I went through the patterns, the correlation points, everything I wish I'd known sooner, I kept coming back to one thought. What would it have looked like if I'd had a framework for this before I needed to do damage control? And we say that all the time, like relationships don't come with a manual. Parenting doesn't come with a manual. You figure it out as you go, usually like after something breaks, usually in the middle of the wreckage, after it's already cost you something, after you like let it all sit and simmer and stew, as hurt becomes anger, and then anger turns into resentment, and then resentment over a long period of time becomes bitterness. So what if we had a manual for before all of that bullshit? And what if there was like a real structured, honest process that couples could go through together, not in a crisis, not in the aftermath, but like preemptively, to lay the groundwork and like giving themselves the time and the opportunity to build something intentional? Like, what if that existed? So my murder board, became a blueprint. Everything that I wished I'd had, like every question I wish someone had made me answer before I got it wrong, or before I made questionable choices, I built it and it's almost ready. And I've been working my ass off, like into the wee hours of the night, back up in the morning, and building this entire setup. And it's pretty cool. And I'm very excited about it. I'm still tweaking it. I'm going to do it. I want to have it ready to launch by Friday the 13th, because I like all the things that people think are taboo. But I'm tweaking it and I'm morphing it and I'm making it as comprehensive as humanly possible. And I want to create more connection in the world. So that's my goal. And I'm not going to say any more than that today, but I wanted you to know that it's coming, because this whole situation is where it came from. It's been so much more than a personal journey of getting to know myself more and seeing myself and my choices clearly, and setting the groundwork for the best future I can possibly imagine. It feels amazing to move from confusion and murkiness and uncertainty, and a large part of it feeling like, well, I don't know what I want. I don't know how to imagine that, because my brain and my subconscious kept trying to shrink it down to what I felt I deserved in the outdated programming. So working through a lot of that and seeing where I accepted far less than I deserved. And also seeing how in the last couple of years, since diving into the attachment work full force, and like, let me make it also very clear, when it comes to my own personal healing, this is not how I work with clients. Well, some of them, but not usually. I go full throttle sledgehammer. Like, I don't want to waste time. Time is wasting. I'm getting older. I've spent so much time already living in a state of, I don't want to say it hasn't been happy, because it has, but like, I haven't been living the most unbelievably authentic, happy life until very recently. And I've learned the last 2 years, I have learned what I need, what I want, how to communicate it, how to handle conflict, how to set boundaries and hold them, because boundaries are how you show people they are allowed to interact with and love you. They are the highest form of self-love. And it was very difficult and uncomfortable to do it at first, but holy shit. I feel like freaking Wonder Woman with the bracelets, like pew, 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 setting boundaries. It's amazing. And just feeling very comfortable being my authentic self. And I am like quirky and different. And I have always marched to the beat of my own drum, which is challenging in a world where everybody wants you to look a certain way, be a certain way, do a certain thing. And I, since I was very young, have basically thrown double middle fingers up at the world about that. And I spent a lot of time trying to bend and morph and fit into boxes that other people had laid out for me. And that is just not happening. Like in the last 2 years, I have blown my entire existence apart, like blasting open the Death Star. Not blasting it open because it didn't open, it just exploded. And it was terrifying at first. And now it's like, oh, I'm back to zero and I get to decide every single part of it. And it feels incredible. So yeah, that's my whole story. Now you've got the big transformation. And that friend and I have been talking about doing some of this relationship murder board, although we probably should change that or people are going to think it's like a 48 hours kind of thing. But do that with people to help them map it all out, because it was genuinely mind-blowing to actually see the wounds and the patterns in other people, in how they interacted with me, and see how it mirrored my own. It was amazing. But so anyways, I want to bring this back to you before I let you go. You don't have to build a murder board, although I totally recommend it. You don't have to do an autopsy weekend, although that worked for me. But again, I'm a writer. You could do something else creative with it. I'm not prescribing anything. I just want to leave you with a single question. And you don't have to answer it right now. Just sit with it. What is your relationship history actually showing you about yourself? I'm making a scrunchy face as I say that because I can imagine somebody listening to this just cringed a little bit. So what is it actually showing you about you? Not them, just about you, about what you've been reaching for, tolerating, dismissing, repeating. You don't have to have the answer. You just have to be willing to look. Look into your parent patterns. Look into your relationship with the concept of love. What does love look like to you? Where did you learn what love looked like? And the love that you have right now from whomever it is your partner is, does that feel soft and joyful and open? Can you truly, truly be yourself in all your quirky, weird glory? Can you do that? And if you can't, what's going on? Is it you have a hard time communicating or they have a hard time receiving? Just get super, super curious. Because having clear eyes in your relationship, it isn't about a destination. It is a practice. It is a continuous practice. And it starts with the willingness to ask the honest questions, even when the answer is uncomfortable. And I'm going to change that to say, especially when the answer is uncomfortable. So thank you for being here for this one. The personal ones cost more to make energetically. And I spend honestly the entire week thinking of like, how vulnerable am I going to go? And this was pretty vulnerable for me. But it matters more to me because of it. So if this landed with you in any way, shape, or form, feel free to share it. I would love if you subscribe. If you're on YouTube, that's subscribing. If you're on Spotify, I'd love it if you followed. I will be sharing my fun thing that is coming, and I would love for you to be a part of hearing about it. And just a reminder, Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 6 a.m. are my more motivational videos. I got to come up with a name for that series, actually. I feel like it needs to have something. And then Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday at 9 p.m. is the Light in the Dark series, soft, soothing, me just sitting with you so that you're not so alone. And then, as always, Sundays are the deep dives. So I will have Quinn back at a later date, and I'm going to see who else I can get in here. So thank you for joining me, and I will see you next Sunday.